Welcome. Thank you for joining us at Empowering Creatives to Live Their Dreams. I'm Jessica Osrick. Today we have a content professional and founder of Dash of Social and Massachusetts Business Network, Ashley DiBiase. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited for you to be here too. So, Ashley, I'm very interested to know what inspired you to start Dash of Social at such a young age, and how did your vision for the company evolve over time?
Yes, great question. So, this story started, I'd say, probably when I was super young. As you mentioned, I was really young when I started Dash of Social, but I have always been very entrepreneurial minded since I was really little. So, probably since the age of 6 is probably when I remember wanting to own a business one day, but just not knowing what it would be. Fast
Mm.
forward to 2012, I had started a fashion and lifestyle blog because reading and writing was always something, or has always been something that I've loved to do. And so it was kind of natural for me to just pick that up as a hobby. So I treated this blog as if it was a part-time job, spending probably at least 10 to 15 hours on it per week between writing content, connecting with other bloggers, and just being able to build up my little corner of the internet. I ended up realizing, however, that with all of this time that I was spending on it, only my family was reading my blog posts, and I also wasn't really getting anything out of it. So I said to myself, if I'm going to continue to devote so many hours to it each week, I want to make sure that I'm reaching the right audience, which at the time was high school and college age girls, and also being able to monetize it, hopefully. And so that's when I realized that social media would really be the way to achieve both of those goals. And so I taught myself how to use social media from a business standpoint. And from there was able to grow my blog and become a micro influencer, partnering with various companies to do paid collaborations and attend press events that they were hosting. I realized at this time, because Instagram was only about 1 to 2 years old, so it was very new and really great for being able to get in the platform. But I realized that most of these companies that I was working with barely had a social media presence, if any at all. And so, through my own experience of using social media to build my brand, I said to myself, well, these companies are really leaving a lot on the table, but I'm not really using social media to reach their right audience and help to grow their brand. And so I had started to get an interest in marketing from the work that I was doing. And so I wanted to learn more about it and also offer these companies some support to kind of show back or give back to them for being able to support me throughout this time. So I started offering pro bono services to them to manage their influencer relationships and manage their social media profiles to help them, and then also dip my toes in the water a bit. And I realized through this work that I was doing with them that I was really passionate about marketing and really wanted to explore it a little bit more than I had been. And so through the connections that I'd made through blogging, I was fortunately able to pick up some freelancing gigs here and there. And through the work that I was doing with these freelancing projects, I kind of had this aha moment where I was like, wait a second, like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is the company that I wanted to start now. And so I made it a goal basically to be able to turn that into my business one day. And so I ended up starting Dash of Social in 2016, kind of pursuing that passion. I was actually a college student at the time. It was in the beginning of my sophomore year of college. And over the next 3 years since then, I had worked really hard to be able to hustle and take it full time once I graduated. So I've been doing this full time since 2019, but had started the company over 8 years ago. And so what I've found has changed throughout that time is that when I started my company, it was just me. So I was the one doing everything for clients. I was very involved in the day to day, had so many tasks and projects on my plate. And it ended up getting to the point where I realized that I truly had no more hours in the day. And if I wanted to be able to continue growing and supporting more clients and taking on more projects, I needed to wave my white flag and ask for help. And so that's when I was able to bring on team members to help support what I'm able to do for clients and take some of that load off my plate. And that's really how things have transitioned over the past few years, is being able to allow me to step more into that CEO role and be able to have a very talented and dependable team to help support and execute the majority of the projects that we're working on.
And so I saw that you majored in marketing. Did you go into school with that intention, or was that something that came about throughout this process as an entrepreneur?
I went into school with that intention, but because I'd actually started my blog in high school. So
Okay.
being able to start that blog in high school, that's what made me realize maybe I should major in marketing because this is something that I'm really interested in. And actually, when I first started freelancing, I was only a senior in high school. So I was really able to get that experience or kind of get that all-knowing thought that I wanted to end up pursuing marketing while I was in high school so that it could kind of drive what I did with my education and my degree from there.
Very cool. Very nice. So founding a business while still at school is, as a student, as a college student, is a remarkable achievement. So what challenges did you face during that time and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I faced a handful of challenges. First and foremost would be a personal one. So, during my freshman year in college, my mom was actually diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And so it was her unexpected diagnosis that actually jump-started my drive to start Dash of Social because it made me realize that life is short and we don't have as much
Mm,
time as we think we do. So we might as well pursue the dreams that we want to pursue now. Prior to
mm,
that, I had always felt like society had placed these predetermined roles or expectations for us where we were kind of expected to go to college, get a degree, build a successful 20 plus year career, and then we could go and start our own business once we've quote unquote proved ourselves. So I had kind of like, you know what, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to do that now. So that was a challenge, was just kind of going through that personal process and difficult situation, being able to juggle being one of my mom's primary caretakers as well as going to school full time and being able to run a business. I think just the juggling act was really challenging because, as I mentioned earlier, only so many hours in the day. So that was a struggle that I worked through. But how I overcame that was really getting very clear about my time. I used to joke and say that I truly didn't know what it felt like to be bored because I didn't have the time to be bored. Like every free hour that I had was spent doing something, whether it was spending time with my family, working on my business, or doing schoolwork. Another challenge that I faced was ageism. And I feel like
mm,
typically when people mention ageism, they mean it for people who might be a little bit older, but not necessarily people who are younger. And so that's something that happened to me is because I started my company when I was only 19, people were very, very skeptical because people have kind of stereotypes for young adults and they kind of assume that they're just lazy or that they don't really know what they're doing or they can't be taken seriously. And so I felt like people came to me with those preconceived notions about me that definitely were not accurate. So just kind of
mm.
constantly feeling like I had to prove myself was a challenge and show that I was an expert despite being young. I don't think that age determines how much knowledge you have in a subject. So being able to get past that, I think was something that was definitely difficult. But how I overcame that was really just understanding that I needed to surround myself with the right people who wouldn't even think about that, the right people who wanted to hire me because they knew what I could do for them, or the supportive friends that I had who believed in me and knew that I could do whatever I wanted to do. I just had to really surround myself with the right community who was going to be with me every step of the way.
Mm, I love that. I love that hearing about essentially surrounding yourselves with partners and believing.
Yes, absolutely.
That's important. So, how do you help clients craft content strategies that reflect their unique voices and resonate with their audiences?
Great question. So I pride myself on having a very robust onboarding process for our clients. I think it's really important to get to know who your clients are inside and out so that way you understand who their target audience is, what goals they'd like to achieve through content marketing, and thinking about what can set them apart from others within their industry. So we work with our clients very closely to understand like what it is that sets them apart from their competitors to that way we can kind of see what are your competitors not doing online that we can be
Mhm.
doing with your content marketing. I also highly encourage our clients to be able to be very attentive about the conversations that they're having with their clients and customers. So that way, if they are constantly noticing that their clients or customers are constantly asking them the same questions or facing the same problems, they can jot those down. And then those questions or problems or whatever it is that might have you, those can turn into topic ideas. So we can write social media posts about those topics, or we can write a blog post that kind of covers that topic if it's a longer form piece of content that would be needed. But being able to have those conversations allows you to stay relevant to your audience. And it also ensures that you're providing value, because really what you want
Mm.
to do at the end of the day with any form of content you provide is ensure that you're providing value, solving a problem, and really being able to position yourself as an expert at what you do.
Mm-hmm. And I have heard that those are important. When did you come to that conclusion and how did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, so I would say I came to that conclusion because I myself, actually, what I noticed was that a lot of my clients were like having the same questions or a lot of like the same struggles when it came to their marketing. And it made me realize that that would be something that I could support them with, is saying, like, okay, well, if all these people are asking me, I might be onto something here. I might be able to come up with
Mm,
some type
okay.
of resource or something that might be able to support them in that sense. So that's what made me realize that it'd be a good strategy to pursue. And once I saw that my content was then performing well because I was directly providing them with information that they personally told me they'd want to learn more about, I realized that I could do the same approach for my clients.
Okay, great. So, as a leader and founder, what key lessons have you learned about building a successful team and fostering collaboration?
Mm. I would say what I've learned just from what I don't really love when clients do this, but I always say let go of the micromanaging. Like, you hired people for a reason, so know that they are very talented at what they do and that they can be trusted to follow through on the work that they're provided with. And I think that has been really key. I also would say that what has helped with growing a business is being able to follow your gut. So whether it's knowing that if something is the right choice to do or whether knowing that something is the wrong path to follow. I think that especially as women, we have very intuitive feelings that we don't always honor or listen to. And so probably 9 times out of 10, what our gut is telling us is what's correct. And so always be sure to listen to that gut feeling that you're having or that intuition that you're feeling, because that will help to guide you through the right path and ensure that you're making only the best choices for yourself.
I agree. Intuition is a very powerful guide. So, balancing creativity with data is essential in content marketing. How do you strike this balance in your work?
I think that how I do it really is I think it's helpful to have a team to help with that, because some people are very numbers driven and some people
Mm,
are very artistically driven. And so I think it can be challenging to expect someone to be able to cover both bases in that sense. And so I have team members who love diving into Google Analytics and kind of seeing like the numbers and the information that we're getting from it. And then I have team members who are able to really run these amazing campaigns and these amazing designs through their creativity and their creative sense. And so being able to, I think, have people who are specialized in those two different things can ensure that they're then brought together and married in that sense in order to create something that's truly wonderful and also that converts.
mm. So, you've achieved so much already. How do you continue to push yourself personally and professionally to reach new heights?
Yeah, I think accountability is huge. So I personally have a few different friends who are in the marketing field that I chat with frequently, whether it's through text, or I even have one friend that we meet every single month for at least an hour on Zoom just to give a run through of what we're like working on in our business and where we'd like to go next. And just being able to speak that to someone makes me think to myself, okay, I've put it out in the world. Now I have to actually put my head down and follow through on it. So I think surrounding yourself with the right community can really help you to take things to new heights professionally. But personally, I have found that having really solid self care routines and rituals that I follow every single day has really been able to support my success in that sense, because I realize that you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're not taking care of yourself and doing the things that you need to nurture your body or your mind or your spirit, then what you do in your business is going to end up falling flat. So it's very important to pay as much attention to yourself as you do to your business and make sure that you don't sacrifice one for the other ultimately.
Hmm. It is important. We don't want to be rich in business success, but bankrupt in our health or even our relationships.
Absolutely.
So, can you share a time when you faced a significant setback and how that experience shaped you as a business owner?
Yeah. So I would say A significant setback. It thankfully didn't last that long, but it was actually during the very first week of the pandemic when everything was shutting down. I lost somewhere between 3 to 5 clients within days. And so I said
Okay.
to myself, because I was only less than a year out of college and therefore less than a year full time in my business, it made me very anxious. And so I said to
Mm.
myself, what's going to happen to my business because all of this is now very unknown and no one knows what's going to happen. And so what ended up happening from there was actually the opposite. And Dash of Social doubled and tripled in growth in the coming years. And I think what helped to keep moving forward was I spent a lot of time focusing on how I can give to people rather than what I can get from people. And so from that, being able to just chat with business owners who are in the trenches with me and just being able to provide them with marketing support and being able to provide them with words of advice and vice versa. And I think focusing on that community aspect and that collaboration aspect and being able to give back without truly expecting anything in return helped Dash of Social to really grow and excel, because when things came about where people were desperately looking for online marketing support when having to take their businesses online, I was then kind of top of mind for these people because all of the I guess I don't know if charitable is the right word, but all of like the charitable work that I did to really support these people and ensure that they felt good about what they were doing in their own business moving forward.
So when you talk about charitable work and giving, um, did you do some work pro bono during that time?
I did. So for some nonprofits, I also just was always hosting like 30-minute calls where I would just say, book a call with me if you have any questions about marketing. Like I'm happy
Mm.
to answer them for you and just kind of provide some consultations and some informational sessions from there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of giving and then receiving. And um, so, in addition to creative recruitment, I'm a certified dream builder coach and life mastery consultant. And one of the key laws that I'm certified to teach about is the law of circulation. And that's exactly what it is. It's you don't go to a stove and say, okay, give me fire. You first put wood in there and then you get heat.
Mhm.
And so that's what I hear you saying is that first you gave and even without thinking of receiving, but you gave and then eventually you received all this business. Where did you get that idea of giving?
So I feel like I probably interpreted that or inherited that, I should say, from my mom. My mom was a very generous person. And so just seeing how she was always supporting people and always giving them and helping them in their careers, because she was a very successful x-ray technician. So she was always mentoring people. I feel like just witnessing her doing that passed down to me, and it made me want to do it moving forward. And I also will say, too, that I would not be where I am without the mentors that I had. Like I've had other agency owners since when I started my business who were always answering questions for me, always providing advice, like always helping me in sticky situations. And that 100% helped me to get to into this position today. And so because of that, I want to give back. Like people gave to me, now it's my turn to move forward or pay it forward in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So, Massachusetts Business Network focuses on increasing visibility for small businesses. So, how does creating a sense of community benefit entrepreneurs and creatives?
Yes. So, as any entrepreneur and creative knows, there's really no one who quote unquote gets it quite like the people who are actually doing the same thing as you. I think it's very difficult when you're an entrepreneur, especially to feel like that you can relate to people in your life who might have a more traditional 9 to 5 or might have a more traditional corporate job. There's so many different nuances that come with entrepreneurship, and although there's people in your life that you can vent to and talk to about it, they might not really understand exactly how you're feeling, or they might not really get the problems that you're facing. And so being able to have that group of people that you can lean on for support when you need it, or but who can also celebrate you when you've achieved something awesome, I think is really, really helpful for being able to keep putting each foot forward. Also, with community, it's a really solid base for being able to provide referrals. I mean, one thing, especially I've done over probably the past 2 years, is just meet with a bunch of different business owners who offer services complementary to mine. So that way, when a client comes to me and they're looking for something that I don't offer, I can say, I have just the perfect person to send you to. And vice versa with these people, when their clients come to them and they're looking for a service that they don't offer, but that I do, they can send their clients to me. And so I think having that trusted group of vetted professionals that you can go to as needs arise is huge for being able to still provide value for your clients and also get some leads and get some clients in the meantime.
Right. No, some of the best clients that we've had here at Elysian are through referrals. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Whenever you meet someone, you want to be able to help them. So whether it's through your service or referring them to it, as you said, a trusted partner, another company that you understand and trust, and you can refer them business, that's valuable for so many people in that community. So, why is establishing thought leadership critical for creatives and business owners? And what are some practical steps to achieve it?
Yes. Thought leadership is crucial for being able to position you as an expert in your field. So when people see you posting about content, they feel like they start to know you. Then when people feel like they start to know you, they start to like you. Once they like you, they start to trust you. And once they trust you, they do business with you. And really,
Mhm.
that's where that thought leadership comes in. If you're constantly providing free, valuable content that relates to the work that you do, whether it's advice, tips, tutorials, whatever it might be, people will see that content over and over again and think to themselves, wow, that person really is an expert, or they really know their stuff. Or when I'm ready to hire for this one thing specifically, I know that I'm going to want to hire them because I see all of the free advice and the knowledge that they're sharing. And so I think being able to have that as a core part of your content strategy can be huge for being able to attract the right clients in the long run. In terms of getting started with thought leadership content, it's as simple as just writing a social media post. So going back to what we chatted about earlier about keeping track of questions that people ask you or problems that they're facing, you can use those topics to then write thought leadership based content. So being able to write a social media post or write a blog post if you want to go into longer form content, or even do a podcast like this. This is a form of thought leadership. Videos, there's so many different options, but just being able to talk about or write about a subject that people are dying to know about is huge for being able to position you as the go-to person at what you do.
What is your favorite form of thought leadership content creation?
Podcasting. I think it's so fun to have such a laid back conversation that people are listening to. And I think there's something really intimate about knowing that what you're sharing through this form of content is that people are listening to it while they're cooking dinner or while they're
Mm.
commuting into the office or while they're on their run outside. I think it's really nice to know that you're in those close spaces with people and they're so connected to you in that way.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So content marketing is always evolving, right? There's new platforms coming up all the time. So what trends do you see shaping the future of blogging, email marketing, and social media?
I think what we're going to see even more is just people incorporating more AI. And so I
Mhm.
don't necessarily mean using AI to write your content, but I think necessarily using AI to automate your marketing strategies. So there's so many forms of AIs that can pull analytics for you for whatever you're doing with your marketing strategy. AI is used in social listening to see what like people are talking about your company or how they're feeling about your brand. AI is used in being able to come up with social media scheduling. So being able to actually schedule your content out and pull together information about that. I think that AI is only going to continue to grow. And I think it's important to find processes or systems or softwares, whatever it might be, that will allow you to do your job or your work smarter, not harder. And I think that that's one way that AI can really step in and harness that for you.
I love the concept of working smarter and not harder. So, starting as a young entrepreneur, did you ever experience imposter syndrome? You mentioned hearing some thoughts of from other people, but you personally, have you ever experienced that? And if so, how did you handle it?
Yes, I definitely did. And I feel like I still do. I feel like it won't ever go away. And honestly, I take that as a sign that it just means that I care about what I do, right? Like if we worry
Mm.
about something, it means that we care about it. And it's that we want to show up as our best possible selves and provide the best possible service. But I definitely experienced it because of the fact that I was young and I saw people who were older than me who I was like, you know what, they're so much better than me because they have so many more years of experience. And I felt like I couldn't necessarily quote unquote compete in that sense. And so I was constantly like worrying about how I'd be able to prove myself and be able to show, well, how is it that I do know that I know what I'm doing, and being able to demonstrate that to people. But what really helped me get past that is being able to honestly have a log of everything that I've accomplished. So I am very much, even though I am a creative person, I am very much a data driven and numbers driven person. And so being able to just have physical copies or physical notes of everything that I've achieved throughout my career makes it really helpful when that imposter syndrome does come around, because I have actually the data to prove, no, you are an expert, or you do know what you're doing, or people are hiring you because they believe in you and what you're doing. Being able to kind of refer to those like case studies ultimately, I think helps solidifies that I am on the right path, and it kind of helps to decrease that doubt if just a little bit.
I love that idea. And it is true that imposter syndrome, it's not even necessarily associated with years of experience, but it sounds like a wonderful tool that you've developed to combat that and overcome it.
It is, yeah.
So, what mindset shifts have been most transformative in your journey as a creative and entrepreneur?
Oh, I love talking about mindset because I always say that when I first started my business, I always thought that strategy was like the way to success. But I realized that honestly, it's probably 90% mindset and 10% strategy that really can help you to be successful as an entrepreneur. I think for me, for mindset, things that I focused on is kind of probably what we mentioned earlier about giving in order to get. So being able to just put all this good stuff out in the world and know that one day it will come back to you. Good karma
Mm,
in that sense. I think also with mindset, I had struggled a lot with being able to price myself properly. And so I was always like, well, I'm not like worth that much. Probably going back to the imposter syndrome topic that we were just chatting about, but really doubting like the value of my work. I think being able to work on how much value you bring to the table and having a mindset shift over like what it is that you contribute to projects and your clients and your business and whatnot, I think is really important. But overall, just being able to believe in yourself as a person and know that you can get past any challenge or any roadblock that comes your way is crucial, because really at the end of the day, if you're not going to believe in yourself or you're always going to doubt yourself, then the negative thoughts that you have will actually bring negative energy. So it's really important to ensure that you're positive and always focusing on the big picture and staying positive in that sense.
hmm And so, what would you say is your big picture moving forward at this point?
So I am very multi-passionate. So I love marketing, of course, but I also have other interests that are really important to me. And so I see myself from the big picture being able to have like multiple different businesses or multiple projects that I'm working on to kind of ensure that I'm catering to every part of my cup ultimately. So being able to ensure that I'm tapping into all the different interests that I have. I also think too, big picture for me is continuing to step more into the CEO role that I have right now and not be so in the weeds or in the day to day with projects, because that pulls you from the strategy and that pulls you from being able to think bigger and come up with this really great plan for how you want your business to continue growing.
hmm Yeah, no, that's a good point. And it's wonderful that you've been able to identify and achieve that status, that CEO status at 8 years into your company. So I do want to applaud you for that.
Thank you so much.
So for creatives who feel overwhelmed by the idea of starting a business, what advice would you give for them so that they can take that first step?
Yeah. I always say it's best to get some type of mentor or even some type of small project that you can get started with. So when I first started my business, I had actually white labeled for several different marketing agencies. And that was really great because in a sense it was guaranteed clients because they were feeding their clients to me to support it with. And then I also was able to see the inner workings of their business and how they operated things and saw what worked well for them or saw what didn't work well for them, and I was able to get that inside look and all that information and use that to think about how I could then continue to grow my business or move my business forward. I also would say that, as I mentioned in the beginning, that I did a lot of pro bono work. And so I think if you want to start a business, maybe offering to work with nonprofits if it makes sense, depending on what it is that you're doing, to see if you can volunteer your creative skills to them, or seeing if there's different freelancing projects that you can pick up. But I think ultimately starting small, testing the waters, making sure that you feel comfortable is what's most important to help you move forward onto the bigger picture and accept those bigger clients.
And so, what's the one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self when starting your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh gosh, I feel like it's hard to decide between two. So I'm going to say
You
two.
can say both of them.
One would be what I mentioned earlier, which is follow your gut. There have been so many times where I've gotten this like red flag, whether it was a potential client that came to me that I didn't feel quite right about, or something else in my business, and I just kind of ignored it, and then I would move forward with that, and then lo and behold, what always happens is it comes to bite you in the butt later on. And so I think it's so much more important to focus and prioritize your peace and sanity compared to money. So I will always focus on ensuring that I feel good and that I don't feel stressed compared to taking on a project just because I want to get the client or get the money from it. So I'd say always follow your gut. Secondly, I would say another thing to focus on is being able to set good boundaries. So I think about boundaries, I mean with yourself as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to work all day, every day, around the clock. And I hit severe burnout probably about 5 years into my business because, in a sense, I had to hustle in order to juggle everything I had going on in my life and be able to take it full time. But it was extremely difficult for me to just slow down and take a step back without feeling guilty about it. And I think it's very important to make sure that you have time for yourself and aren't just in work mode all the time. I don't think there's a such thing as a perfect work-life balance. I think it kind of depends on the season. Maybe certain times of year you're working more and focusing on yourself less. Maybe there's other times in the year where you're focusing on yourself more and working less. So I think just kind of feeling how your body's feeling and taking notes from there about what feels good to you is what's most important.
So, you mentioned that 5 years into your business, you did experience burnout. How did you pivot from that to where you are now?
So what ended up happening was I it's kind of a funny story, but I was going on vacation with my then boyfriend, now husband's family, and we were supposed to go to Cape Cod, and I was up until like 3:30 in the morning the night that we were supposed to leave, finishing work. And so kind of made me realize that was like my epiphany or my aha moment where I was like, wait a second, like I'm still working almost 24 hours later to finish all of this work, and it just so I can go on vacation. And it wasn't because I wasn't productive, it's just because I had way too much work on my plate and I had a hard time saying no or asking for help. I feel like those kind of go hand in hand. And so it made me realize that I needed to stop going through the hustle mode that I was doing and instead focus on ensuring that I was taking time for myself that I needed. And so I took those 2 weeks off when we were on the Cape to just kind of reevaluate. And I said, when I come back, things are going to change. And it's kind of weird in the sense that when I came back, it's almost like I quit my workaholism, if that's even a word, my workaholic status cold turkey. It's like I just suddenly flipped a switch almost, where it's like I just kind of set hard boundaries with myself. And I realized what's most important with being able to not overwork yourself is to ask for help. I realized that the reason why I was so stressed out and working all the time is because a client would ask me to do something or someone would ask me to do something. And I would say, sure, I can do it. It's only 5 minutes. Yep, that's no problem. I can do it. And then next thing you know, you have 30 things that are supposedly only 5 minutes on your plate. And so I realized I just needed to get better at delegating and asking for help and trusting that other people are able to support me in the way that I needed rather than just trying to juggle everything on my own.
And so you've mentioned the importance of following your gut, also trusting your team, delegating. When was the time that you went to trust a teammate? Your gut said you can't trust that person. You went ahead anyways. What was that experience like, and how did you recover from it?
Yeah, so I had hired a team member probably, I think it was about 3.5 years ago. And this team member had some projects on their plate that they were supposed to be working on. And I personally had no bandwidth to help out because I was actually closing on my house at the time. I was moving. I had a lot of other client projects that I needed to focus on, and we were on tight deadlines for this client. And this team member kind of went MIA and was unresponsive for about a week or two, which led me to having to work really late hours and on the weekends to take over what was on their plate. And so I did end up finding out that they did have a family member who passed, which I was completely empathizing with and completely understanding, but they didn't communicate that. And to me, communication is incredibly important. If this person had reached out to me as soon as it happened and said, "Hey, this what happened. This is what happened. I can't really have the bandwidth or the mental capacity to focus on this right now," I would have said, "I totally understand. I will jump in and help you. No problem at all." But I think to just ghost the person that you're working for and not give a heads up, I think made me lose some trust. And I feel like I definitely struggle with worrying or feeling secure in people following through on their end. I feel like I always have this worry of like, well, am I going to have to pick up the pieces? Right. And so that's something that really was difficult. And I ended up hiring, they actually had to move on to move to a new job. And then I ended up hiring them again a second time, even though I was very hesitant. And I kind of explained to them like the severe lack in communication was worrying to me. They promised me that they would be super communicative. And then the same exact thing happened again. They just actually ghosted me completely and got another job. And so that was difficult knowing that I gave someone a second chance and the same thing happened. And I felt like very disrespected and not appreciated in that sense. And so it was really hard to just like put so much trust in someone and then have them not reciprocate that trust or that respect back. And so I feel like what I've been really careful about is I think having a better hiring and onboarding process and thinking about how I can vet the people that I'm potentially considering having join the team a little bit more, and thinking maybe there's better questions they can be asking or other things they can be looking out for to make sure that they will follow through on their end and whatnot. Because like I said, I mean, I'm always a very understanding person. I'm always happy to help out if something comes up, but I think to just not communicate it and just kind of leave someone in the dust is a little bit upsetting, I think, as a business owner when it happens to you.
Yeah. No, and you mentioned that you now have a more thorough hiring process with the questions and everything. So it sounds like there's still a recovery process in the works from that particular situation.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like with the team that I have now, the four amazing team members that I have who've been with me for years at this point, I feel like I hit the jackpot. And so I honestly think that getting a quote unquote not the best fit team member is such like a low chance compared to finding the right team members. Like I feel like it's more often than not you find the amazing people to work for you than you find like the not great fit people to work for you, if that makes sense. So I'd say it's a much lower chance of it happening of not hiring the right person. So I am really lucky with the fact that I have amazing team members now who are supporting everything that we're doing.
And acknowledging that is a wonderful way to move past that one instance. So it
Exactly.
sounds like you're doing the right thing already to put yourself in a positive situation for hiring
Absolutely.
successfully in the future. At least
Yes.
what, uh, 4 out of 5 times.
Yes, I agree.
So anything else that you would like to share with our audience today?
I would say that when you're looking to start a business as a creative, or if you're a freelancer or any type of business that you want to start, speak to people who are in the industry. I think you learn so much from people who have been through the trenches. They can provide you advice. They can perhaps refer clients or customers to you. They can give you support. And I think being able to surround yourself with the community, which I feel like has been such a prevalent topic of this conversation, but surrounding yourself with a community who can support you and hold your hand throughout the process, I think will really excel your success and ensure that you feel good about everything you do moving forward.
And it's important to let go of that Lone Ranger syndrome, right? So
Yes,
just because you're the sole owner of the company, it doesn't mean that you have to venture out on that journey alone.
I agree.
Well, thank you for participating in my show, Ashley. And I'd love to have you on my show again for us to hear more about your achievements and your influence in inspiring other entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. This has been awesome.
And thank you for joining my show, Empowering Creatives to Live Their Dreams. I'm Jessica Osrick. You can do it. I believe in you.